If there was ever a lesson in city planning 101 on what not to do if you want your city to thrive for decades, the urban planners in Hartford definitely missed that class. The consequences were devastating to say the least. Once hailed as the pride of New England, Hartford now feels like a foregone alternative, to put it mildly. So what happened? Let's rewind to the beginning. You see, back in the day, Hartford wasn't just a city. It was the city. Founded in 1635, it was one of the most beautiful places to visit in the New World. At its zenith during the Gilded Age, Hartford, Connecticut was the richest city in the United States on a per capita basis due to its booming insurance industry and manufacturing sector. It housed insurance companies like Aetna and Travelers. Half a century later, Hartford's population peaked at approximately 177,397 residents. This growth was fueled by industrial jobs that attracted a diverse workforce, including many immigrants who settled in the city. One particular event that significantly contributed to this demographic change was World War II. You see, during World War II, Pratt & Whitney's aviation industry in East Hartford employed over 25,000 workers to meet wartime demands. However, after 1950, Hartford experienced substantial outmigration and economic decline, which will be discussed later in the video. Meanwhile, during Hartford's golden age, Victorian architecture dotted its charming streets, and its pre-grid layout made it a picturesque New England town with a character as sharp as Mark Twain's wit. Twain himself lived here and famously said, "Of all the beautiful towns it has been my fortune to see, this is the chief." In other words, Hartford was a big deal, but not big enough for the impending doom that is about to occur. The cracks started appearing on the vase in the mid-20th century. The rise of suburbia hit the city like a wrecking ball. People traded their beautiful row houses and lively neighborhoods for cookie-cutter homes in the burbs. As jobs disappeared and industries evolved, the insurance money didn't stay in Hartford either. It flowed out into the surrounding towns, leaving Hartford to fend for itself.
His announcement today and GE's announcement last year when it moved its headquarters out of Fairfield County to Boston has many asking about the future of big business in this state.
The News 8's Bob Wilson live at Aetna Hartford headquarters tonight with that. Bob?
Yeah, the news of them moving out, it's kind of been released earlier. The mayor came out and addressed it. But now we know 250 jobs. Those are the top jobs, the big paying jobs that are going to be moving down to New York City.
And then came the freeways. I-84 and I-91 carved through Hartford like a hot knife through butter, slicing up neighborhoods and choking the downtown. The Connecticut riverfront, once a picturesque escape, was reduced to a narrow strip of public space overshadowed by an unforgiving wall of asphalt. It's as if someone decided the best way to enjoy the river was to make it impossible to get to. Genius! If you've ever wondered what happens when urban planners go rogue, look no further than Hartford. Entire neighborhoods were bulldozed to make way for airports, parking lots. Surface parking became the city's new claim to fame, creating vast, empty spaces that scream, "We don't know what we're doing." The destruction didn't stop with the highways. Hartford embraced modernist urban planning, which in this case is a fancy way of saying they ripped out the city's soul and replaced it with concrete eyesores. Beautiful Victorian homes and stately buildings were demolished, replaced by generic modernist architecture that has all the charm of a DMV waiting room on a Monday morning. In short, it's the urban planning equivalent of putting lipstick on a pig and pretending it's still a beauty queen. To add insult to injury, most of the historical buildings were wiped off the map. Although a few gems like those on Pratt Street managed to survive, they're now surrounded by a sea of concrete and bland modernist structures that could bore you to tears. To put it bluntly, in less than half a century, Hartford became Hartford's nemesis. Today, Hartford is one of the poorest cities in America, with a poverty rate of 26.88%. Compare that to the national average of 11.6%. That's more than double the national average. The unemployment rate is shooting to the skies, with the high cost of living serving as the rocket.
Right now at 6, certainly not a great ranking for our capital city. U.S. News & World Report ranking Hartford the most expensive place to live.
Remember the population we mentioned earlier to be 177,397 after World War II? Well, it is now 119,626 in 2024, a 32.5% decline. What a calamity. And don't even get me started on the crime rates. Hartford's crime rate is 31.1% higher than the national average. Specifically, the city has a violent crime rate that is approximately 54.1% higher than the national average, while property crimes are about 26.8% higher than the U.S. average.
We could see these three criminals descend onto our property, come up our driveway, hit the cars in the driveway, and then proceed into our garage.
The worry over someone rummaging through your belongings, second only to the thought of things escalating, with many of these incidents happening at night while families sleep.
You hear these stories and you just wonder, when is it ever going to stop?
Hartford is one of America's most dangerous cities. If you need to walk downtown after dark, don't forget to bring your wits and maybe some running shoes. Hartford is a textbook case of how not to handle urban renewal. If its urban planners had attended that class we mentioned at the beginning of this video, they would have learned never to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because that's in fact what they did. They tossed out the baby, the bathwater, and even the tub. Instead of preserving its history, Hartford bulldozed it. Instead of building on its strengths, it paved over them. And the result is a city that looks and feels like it lost a bet. Every cloud has a silver lining. Irrespective of its many stumbles, Hartford still has a few redeeming qualities. Pratt Street, a tiny historical district, offers a glimpse of what the city used to be. It's charming, walkable, and full of character, which is proof that Hartford once knew how to get it right. But to be honest, Pratt Street feels more like a postcard from the past than a promise for the future. The city also houses cultural gems, like the Wadsworth Atheneum Museum of Art and the Mark Twain House. These spots are like Hartford's good china, trotted out to impress visitors, but not good enough to hide the cracks in the foundation. In hindsight, it is easy to see where Hartford went wrong. If city leaders had preserved its historic neighborhoods, invested in public spaces, and maintained a pedestrian-friendly downtown, Hartford might still be thriving today. Imagine a city that's blended its New England charm with modern amenities. It could have been a place where history and progress walked hand in hand. Instead, Hartford tried to keep up with suburban sprawl and wound up losing itself in the process. Is there hope for Hartford? Maybe. Cities have come back from worse. Take St. Augustine, Florida, for example. Established in 1565, it is the oldest continuously occupied city in the U.S. and one of the best during its golden age. However, by the 19th century, it started declining, mainly due to natural disasters and changes in transportation routes. What did they do? They went back to the drawing board and began rejuvenating those core values that initially made them flourish. And it worked. In recent decades, St. Augustine has regained prominence as a tourist destination, capitalizing on its rich history and architecture. Hartford can regain prominence, but it's going to take more than a fresh coat of paint. It needs to rethink its priorities, build more parks, fewer freeways, more walkways, and less parking lots. But that's a tall order for a city that's been so deeply scarred by decades of poor decisions. Notwithstanding, plans are being put in place to bring Hartford back into the spotlight. For example, currently, the Hartford 400 plan is trying to rectify the damage done by I-84 and I-91 by removing highway interchanges and restoring urban connectivity and green spaces. Contingent plans are also being put in place to reduce the crime rate in the city.
Few things. One of them, Hartford police started up walk beats just a few weeks ago throughout all parts of the city, north end, south end, and downtown. Now, in addition to that, the city opened up an Office of Violence Prevention a few months back. That office working very closely with organizations throughout the city, in addition to partners throughout the city.
For what it's worth, this is a step in the right direction. For urban planners, Hartford's story is both a warning and a lesson. It's proof that even the most beautiful and prosperous cities can fall if they lose sight of what makes them special. Balance is very important. Urban centers need to grow and adapt, but not at the cost of their soul. As we wrap up this exploration of Hartford's rise and fall, let's hope the city finds a way to rewrite its history. After all, even the most battered cities deserve a second chance. As the old saying goes, it's not over till the fat lady sings, and Hartford still has a song left in it, though it might need a little auto-tune. Make sure to check out other interesting videos on our channel. Like and share this video to spread awareness. If you haven't already, subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on our future content. Thank you for your support. This is World Tour. See you in our next video.